He was the man the country feared. But to me, he was just Dad. Imagine this, you're 8 years old, standing in the schoolyard, and a whisper follows you around like a shadow a ways, just out of sight, always there. That's Mutz. His dad's the guy who set a man on fire. Before you can even process what that means, a headline flashes on your kitchen TV. Bandidos President Lars Harns convicted of torture. Your mom, with a quick, practiced movement, shuts it off, but those words burn in any way. They stick. That, believe it or not, was my normal. Welcome to the childhood of growing up with Norway's most dangerous biker. Quick note before we roll further. This is a personal narrative drawn from public reporting and lived experience. No glorification, no hero worship. Just the human cost, told straight. If you value stories that don't flinch, hit subscribe and say ready in the comments so I know you're here with me. Lars Harns wasn't always the newspaper villain, the headline boogeyman. Back in the mid-90s, before the chaos really hit, he was just my Largarthen-life father. He smelled like gasoline and leather, a potent mix that, to a kid, screamed adventure. He'd lift me onto his Harley, that massive, rumbling machine, and rev the throttle. In that deep, guttural roar, I felt completely safe. Why? Because nobody could touch the man who made the ground shake beneath us. He was a titan, my personal superhero. Then came 1996. Everything changed. That's when Dad and a handful of ex-gunsmen, with hard eyes and harder, story-spatched the very first Bandidos rockers on Norwegian soil. It wasn't just a club. It was a statement. I remember that party like it was yesterday, a bonfire blazing in the yard. Beer crates stacked taller than me, grown men hugging like they'd won a championship. The air hummed with belonging and loyalty that felt sacred. By morning, his face was plastered across the papers. Biker war coming. I asked, Dad, what does Bandidos mean? He ruffled my hair and said, Brotherhood, kiddo. Nothing will ever touch us. That promise aged like milk. The Bandidos recruited the worst of the worst. People said making them strong, yes, but ruthless too. A brotherhood built on fear and aggression. The kind that eventually crumbles and takes pieces of childhood with it. The Nordic Biker War wasn't a distant news story. It detonated inside my life. I was nearly 10 when bullets ripped through an Oslo tow truck office for servicing a Hells Angels bike. A car bomb shook our neighbor's greenhouse 3 blocks away. Shards of glass rained down on my trampoline, glittering like bad omens. Terrifying, damned, somehow normal. One night, Dad limped home, a bullet hole clean through his calf. An ambush at Fornebu Airport Bandos, returning from Helsinki. He laughed it off and wrapped the wound in cling film. Just a scratch, he said. And I laughed tube cause. If he wasn't scared, why should I be? That's how the logic gets twisted. The war turned newspapers into ledgers of retaliation and murder. Our lives were paced by sirens, garage doors, quiet phone calls. Violence became the background hum. Grade 5 assignment. Bring something that represents your family. Kids showed photo albums, embroidered cushions, even a hamster. I brought Dad's Bandidos support t-shirt. The skull in a sombrero with crossed pistols, a statement piece. My teacher went chalk white, recess canceled. Principal on the phone. Mom begged Dad, pick a different shirt next time. He roared not at me, at the world. My kid will never apologize for who we are. That night, I hid the shirt under my pillow. Not from shame. From fear of fire, of men in vans, of what defiance summons. Fear doesn't need a warrant. It just moves in. It was 2001 when the door finally exploded. Flashbangs popping like soda cans. A SWAT officer dragged me from bed, my socks filled with splinters from the doorframe. They weren't there for me. They were hunting Dad. The initial charge: an armored car robbery. Later, it morphed into something darker: torture, sexual assault, robbery. In court, I listened to details I still wish I could unhear: a basement, an iron boiling water on a prisoner's back. I kept seeing a different image: Dad's huge, careful hands teaching me to iron my Cub Scout neckerchief. How do you reconcile those two men? You don't. You carry both pictures forever. A civil war in your skull. April 2004. Stavanger, the Nokas. Heist Norway's biggest. 59 million kroner, gone. Lieutenant Arnsigd Klungvær, dead on the cobblestones. Dad's name leaked into the story: Mastermed, financier, cleanup. Wiretaps captured a joke about buying a mountain cabin with a view. The jury didn't tie him to a trigger, but the stink stuck. We were evicted. Landlords don't rent to headline villains. I couch surfed. Sometimes I slept in a biker clubhouse backroom jukebox, humming metal instead of lullabies. A year later brought the strangest chapter. Dad got out and went public with Redemption government-funded anti-violence program. Cameras flashing. A handshake with Prime Minister Jens Stoltenberg. He grinned like mission accomplished. Backstage, he pocketed a free t-shirt and muttered, "Politicians love a reformed sinner, makes them feel like Jesus." 2 weeks later, he was seen at the Bandidos Christmas party, handing out fat envelopes. The mask didn't so much slip as evaporate. At 14, I built an escape hatch. I auditioned for a local musical, a world of spotlights and applause, instead of sirens and whispers. The director asked what fueled my monologue about rage. I didn't have to dig. I thought about irons and headlines, and my little sister's breathing when she slept after a night of explosions. I poured everything into that stage. The applause hit like oxygen. A future snapped into focus. Dad never came to a show. He called theater soft nonsense for soy boys. I kept going anyway. The spotlight felt safer than his shadow. 2015, and guns again. Police stopped Dad near Moss. In the footwell, a Glock with a silencer. Maps leading to a witness in the no-case retrial. Headlines screamed, "Attempted murder plot." The court convicted him of grave threats, acquitted on attempted murder. 3 years. I sat in the gallery while prosecutors read my childhood like a case file. Shame arrived, as it does. But so did pity. The man who terrified a country now looked small, gray, shoulders like coat hangers beneath prison cotton. Monsters age into mortals if you wait long enough. It took time, but I wrote a one-man play. I called it Mutz, about a boy who inherits a surname tattooed across every Norwegian front page and spends adulthood scrubbing it off his skin. Opening night, 40 people in a basement theater. Closing night, a sold-out Oslo opera house. Critics wrote, "A bruised love letter to the boy in the beast's castle." Dad still, inside-esked for a DVD, I mailed it. No note. A week later, a letter. "Proud of you, kid." 3 words I'd waited 32 years to read. Too late to heal. Just in time to forgive. If this is resonating, tap like so. YouTube carries it to someone who needs an escape route. Drop still here in the comments and tell me the one moment you felt in your chest. I'll pin a few and shout one out in the next episode. And if you want more true stories, the headlines flatten. Subscribe and ring the bell. This channel is where we tell them whole. Release day. 2018. I waited outside the gate with a letter that started, "Dad, let's talk without fists or headlines." He refused. Media's sniffing around can't look weak. Pride is a prison with invisible bars. I folded the letter into a paper plane and sent it over the razor wire. It landed in a puddle. Maybe closure is overrated. Maybe paper planes are enough. Maybe letting go counts more than getting answers. A journalist later called mine a sunshine story. I said, sunshine still burns if you've lived in a basement your whole life. I got out. I built a life. But every success is footnoted by sirens. When a motorcycle backfires, my pulse sprints. When my daughter asks about Grandpa Lars, I stumble. How do you distill a boomerang of love and terror into something a child can hold? I say he was a storm. And storms make you build stronger roofs. My roof is strong now, but the sound of rain still means something different to me. 2022. Backstage in Stavanger, phone buzzing in my pocket. The warden, Dad's sick. Liver cancer. Months, maybe. Does he want to see me? The guard relayed his answer. Tell Mutz I'm proud. But I won't be handcuffed to a hospital bed like I'm some civilian. Classic Lars-Skuzing image over intimacy, even at the end. I stepped on stage and dedicated the performance to anyone who shares DNA with a ghost. The crowd stood. Somewhere in a ward, I pictured him calling them weak. He could keep that definition of strength. I'd found vulnerability, connection, and telling the story without lying to myself. This life has been sifting wreckage, deciding what to salvage and what to let burn. I keep the smell of gasoline on leather. Once, it meant safety. I leave the belief that cruelty equals power. I keep the roar of a Harley. It was a lullaby. I leave the lie that violence is hereditary. I keep the surname. Harnscheiding would mean he still owns me. I leave the need to explain him to people who skip nuance. Inheritance isn't destiny. It's raw clay. I'm still sculpting, bleeding sometimes, but the shape that's mine. Every night, my play ends with the same line. I am not my father's crimes. I am the comma after his sentence. Lights down. I walk off stage, not into leather and late-night knocking, but into my daughter's crayon drawings scattered across the table. Into my wife's laughter bouncing off the walls. Into a quiet home where the only explosions are champagne corks on birthdays. Freedom isn't fireworks. It's a ceiling that never caves to bullets. It's the absence of fear, the presence of peace. A life chosen, not imposed. If that line hit you, smash like so it finds the next person stuck inside a family myth. Comment, comma, if you're writing your next sentence. And if you want more like Fizmore Truth, fan subscribe. We build escape routes here, one story at a time. Dad's still breathing. But I've picked the plot in my mind. An anonymous patch of lawn, far from biker headstones and bravado. Grass that forgets. One day I'll stand there with my daughter. She asks, was Grandpa a bad man? I'll say, he was a man complicated, flawed. And he gave me a gift, a perfect example of who I refuse to become. We'll lay daisies, no roses. Too romantic for this and drive home with windows down. Pop songs up, tires singing louder than any Harley ever did. Into a future I built, brick by painful brick, from the ashes of his legacy. A future that is, finally, mine. So here we are, my Bjor, thousands of miles from Norway. Maybe you've never sat on a bike, but stories about family, identity, and the long shadow of the past echo everywhere. If your childhood came with locked drawers of unspoken truths, rules no one said out loud, reputations heavy as lead, know this. The script flips the moment you pick up the pen. My father's name, closed doors. My Namath same Onio pins them now because I decided ink beats scars. A story told honestly can outlive a wound. Growing up with Norway's most dangerous biker taught me fear, loyalty, and the worst smell I'll never forget. But it also taught me a stubborn lesson. Even the longest winter eventually cracks under the first thin blade of spring. It always does. Keep riding toward yours. If you're still here, tell me the sentence you needed to hear as a kid. Put it in the comments. I'll pin a few so someone else sees it when they need it most. And if you want the next chapter, the biker war reshaped Norway's gun laws and what it means today, hit subscribe and ring the bell. The truth is always more dangerous than the legend. Stay safe, keep your eyes open, and as always, ride free.